He can just flat out score, and he can get his own shot against anybody.
Bradley Emmanuel Beal, born June 28, 1993. There's a list floating around of the NBA's top 10 highest paid players in 2025, all former MVPs or guys that shaped the last decade of basketball. Curry, LeBron, Giannis, Durant, even Damian Lillard, who gave Portland arguably their best identity in franchise history even though he didn't win. Champions, icons, game changers. But then, near the bottom of the list, tucked just beneath Paul George and Devin Booker, who can have similar stories written about them, sits a name that somehow made all that money without ever truly moving the needle: Bradley Beal. A three-time All-Star, a career 20-point-per-game scorer, and by all definitions, a successful NBA player. But look closer, and it's hard to find a single moment where Beal's presence ever altered the landscape, where his numbers carried weight beyond the box score, where his teams were feared because of him. He was paid like a franchise savior on multiple occasions, but carried himself like someone perfectly comfortable being the best player on a losing roster. That's not to say Beal wasn't talented. He's not a bust, he didn't flame out early or become unplayable. He produced quietly, efficiently, and consistently. But he produced for himself, not for a winning cause. He stayed healthy long enough to secure one of the most player-friendly contracts in NBA history, a Supermax deal complete with a no-trade clause, despite never once making an All-NBA first team or leading his team beyond the second round. And that's where his growth was stalled. In Washington, he was the franchise face by default, first as John Wall's sidekick, then as a solo act in a city full of excuses. His numbers went up, his usage went up, and the team kept losing. He claimed to want to win, but chose money every time he could have demanded a trade. He became the symbol of stuck potential, not because of lack of skill, but because he never pushed for more. And the sad part is, you can't blame him for getting his. Now in Phoenix, surrounded by stars, he's become invisible. Injuries, inconsistency, and irrelevance have all crept in. He got the bag, but where did the impact go? And will anyone care in 10 years? The $250 million man who made it all look like easy work, but in the end, none of it matters for these reasons. What happened? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Bradley Beal is a 6'4" shooting guard from St. Louis, Missouri, known early for his smooth jumper and mature game. He starred at Florida for one season before being drafted 3rd overall by the Washington Wizards in 2012. Paired with John Wall, the duo was marketed as the Eastern Conference's next great backcourt, and for a while it looked promising. Beal's scoring improved each year, and he became one of the most reliable shooters in the league. By his mid-20s, Beal had become a 20-point scorer, a 2-time All-Star, and the face of the Wizards franchise. He had the stats, the minutes, and the green light, but Washington rarely won anything that mattered. Still, the numbers came easy. Beal evolved into a smooth offensive threat, but his leadership, defense, and ability to elevate teammates were always in question. The question was never can he score, it was does it actually help you win? Unfortunately for teams that paid him, it did not. Stunt number 1, stats that never changed anything. Bradley Beal could always score and had the prototypical game for the modern shooting guard. From his early years alongside John Wall to his solo runs in Washington, he never had trouble putting the points on the board. At his peak, he averaged over 30 points per game in back-to-back seasons, something only a handful of players ever accomplished. But those numbers didn't move anything. No shift in the standings, no real playoff threat, no new respect from opponents, just stats. Beal's game was undeniably smooth. He could shoot off the dribble, attack the rim, finish through contact, and hit tough mid-range shots. But there was no edge to how he played. No defensive presence, no vocal leadership, no late-game signature moments outside of stat padding on losing teams a la Mitch Richmond. As the numbers piled up, the wins stayed flat. Between 2020 and 2022, Beal was near the top of the league in scoring, but his teams finished 25-47, 34-38, and 35-47, barely above water. In the games that mattered most, his performances didn't. And as the losses mounted, so did the feeling that Beal was built to shine only when nothing was on the line. He became the face of what some fans call empty calories, production that doesn't feed anything. That kind of scoring when no one's playing defense in March, when you're already out of the playoff race, can look impressive, and with the right charisma can run up a bank account, but it rarely earns respect from your peers, especially when it never leads to progression outside of self. Beal never elevated a team, never made a group of average guys better, and never scared anyone in the postseason. The more it became clear the numbers were for him, and though you can't blame him, you understand his stats are some of the most insignificant, outside his pockets, that is. Stunt number 2, choosing the bag over the build. There were several points in Bradley Beal's career where the natural move would have been to leave. The Wizards were going nowhere, their roster was outdated, their future uncertain, and Beal's value was peaking. He had interest from contenders, he had the resume to force a trade, but he never did. Every time the opportunity came to leave Washington and chase a real basketball legacy, he chose money. In 2022, he signed a 5-year, $251 million Supermax contract, the largest deal in franchise history and one of the richest in league history at the time. The kicker, it came with a no-trade clause, the only one in the league. It was the kind of deal given to a player who's carried a franchise deep into the postseason, but Beal never made it past the second round. When asked about it, he said he wanted to win in DC, that he believed in the front office and that he was loyal. But loyalty without progress becomes dead weight, and in this case, Beal's decisions kept the Wizards stuck. Too good to tank, not good enough to matter. His presence delayed the Wizards' rebuild by at least 3 years. Every season became a rinse and repeat cycle of let's see what Bradley Beal could do, while younger pieces stalled and the team drifted. All while Beal collected superstar checks without facing superstar expectations. He played pressure-free basketball on a team with no real direction and never once made noise about changing it. You can't blame someone for taking the money, but Beal didn't just take the bag, he wrapped the franchise in it too. He became a $250 million centerpiece with no supporting structure and no intention of leaving the comfort zone he'd built, and in doing so, any real basketball legacy slipped further out of reach and led to how he's perceived now. Stunt number 3, Phoenix exposed the truth. When Bradley Beal was traded to the Phoenix Suns in 2023, it felt like a start of something new. A title contender with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker adding another proven scorer. On paper, it looked like a super team, but what unfolded was the exact opposite. The Suns collapsed early in the playoffs, Beal battled injuries all season, and when he did play, he often looked like someone who never belonged on that stage in the first place. Beal didn't just underperform, he disappeared. His averages dropped across the board, he struggled with efficiency, couldn't stay healthy, and rarely looked comfortable in his role. And maybe that's because the role itself revealed what had always been true. Beal was never the guy many thought he was. Not a franchise savior, not a cornerstone, just a player probably a little past his prime. A really talented player who had never been forced to adapt to winning basketball. Reports were that new head coach Frank Vogel told Beal he envisioned him as the team's Drew Holiday, a high-level defender who could also contribute offensively. Beal allegedly responded, "Don't ever compare me to another player again." Whether true or not, the mindset tracks. Beal never adjusted, never evolved, and on a team that needed sacrifice and structure, his game lacked both. By the end of the year, Beal wasn't the engine, wasn't the voice, and barely looked like a factor. The Suns went all in and got a ghost in return. No defensive impact, no leadership, and no pressure taken off Booker and Durant. His time in Phoenix hasn't just been disappointing, it exposed that Beal may have only been built to shine when nothing was expected of him. And when it finally was, the lights were far too bright. All in all, Bradley Beal made it. He lasted over a decade in the NBA, became a 3-time All-Star, and secured a $250 million contract, something most players only dream of. But the story of Bradley Beal isn't about what he accomplished, it's about what those accomplishments actually meant. And for over 10 seasons, the answer was not much. He was the face of a franchise that never mattered, the scorer on a team that never won, and eventually the third star on a super team that didn't get out the first round. Beal never flamed out, never fully declined, he just faded quietly, cashed in, but cashed out of relevance. In the end, he played like it was all easy work, but easy work doesn't build legacies, it just fills box scores. And that's why Bradley Beal's NBA story, though successful on paper, feels so unfinished, and for these reasons, his growth as a basketball player was stunted. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.